The airport terminal smelled like stale coffee and regret, and as I stared at the one-way ticket in my trembling hand, London Heathrow, no return. My father's voice echoed in my skull like a gunshot. If this is who you are, then go be it somewhere else. My mother's silence had been worse. Her eyes averted as she handed me the envelope with just enough cash for a hostel bed and a prayer that I'd find my way back to God. I was 18, freshly out of the closet in our cookie-cutter Ohio suburb, and in that moment, with the boarding call crackling over the speakers, I realized love could shatter a family faster than any storm. I didn't cry until the plane lifted off, the Midwest shrinking to a patchwork of green and gray below me. What kind of parents do that? Ship their only son across the ocean like unwanted luggage, hoping the distance would scrub the gay out of me? I'd spent the last week in a numb haze after that dinner table confession, the one where I'd finally mustered the courage to say, I'm gay, and I can't pretend anymore. Dad's face had turned the color of overcooked turkey, his fork clattering against the plate. Mom had whispered, Jesus, Alex, not here, as if my truth was a curse word unfit for the Thanksgiving linens. By morning, the ticket was on the kitchen counter, bought with points from their annual Florida getaway. This is for your own good, Dad had grunted, avoiding my eyes. Europe will toughen you up. Figure yourself out away from us. Toughen me up, right? As if a semester abroad in some rainy English city could rewrite my DNA. I'd begged them to reconsider, to at least talk to a counselor, but they shut down like storm windows before a tornado. Grandma in Manchester had agreed to host me. Unwittingly, I suspected, because Mom had spun it as a cultural exchange to enrich my gap year before college. No mention of the exile. I texted my best friend, Jamie, from the gate. They bought me a ticket to London. One way. I'm done. Her reply buzzed back. WTF, Alex? Call me when you land. We'll plot your escape. But even her words felt distant, like echoes from a life I was hurtling away from. The flight was 11 hours of recycled air and bad movies, my mind replaying every awkward high school crush. The quarterback who smiled too long in the locker room, the art kid who sketched my profile during study hall without knowing it made my heart stutter. I'd hidden it all so well, the perfect straight-A son with his Letterman jacket and church youth group smile. Coming out had been a damn breaking. Words I'd practiced in the mirror for years spilling out in a rush. And for what? A banishment disguised as opportunity. By the time the wheels touched down at Heathrow, jet lag had woven itself into my bones, and the weight of solitude pressed harder than the customs stamp in my passport. Grandma's house was a narrow terraced brick in a Manchester neighborhood called Chorlton, where the air hummed with the chatter of Pakistani markets and the distant rumble of trams. She was a wiry woman in her 70s, with Dad's sharp blue eyes and a no-nonsense accent that turned every sentence into a command. Alexander, love, your skin and bones. Come in. I've got shepherd's pie warming. She hugged me fiercely at the door, oblivious to the undercurrent of my arrival. Mom had sworn her to secrecy about the family matters. So I played along, nodding through stories of her wartime childhood while my phone stayed silent. No calls from home, just a curt email from Dad. Be good. Send postcards. The first weeks blurred into a gray routine. I'd enrolled in a local community college for English Lit, figuring I'd kill time until I could afford a flight back. Classes were a lifeline. Dissecting Whitman and Woolf in a drafty lecture hall, surrounded by students who bantered about Premier League matches and vegan cafes without the suffocating politeness of Ohio small talk. But nights were brutal. I'd lie in the spare room, staring at water stains on the ceiling, wondering if my parents even missed me. The betrayal stung deepest, not just the ticket, but the erasure. No, I love you anyway. No therapy pamphlet, just goodbye. That's when I met Elias. It was a drizzly Thursday in the college library, me buried in a dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room, Baldwin's words cutting too close to home. He slid into the chair across from me, all tousled dark curls and olive skin, wearing a faded Smith's t-shirt that screamed Manchester native. Mind if I borrow that when you're done? It's for my essay on queer exile. His voice was soft, accented with the lazy roll of Northern English, and his brown eyes held a spark of mischief that made my stomach flip. I handed it over, my cheeks burning. Exile, huh? Sounds familiar. We talked for hours about Baldwin's Paris, my Ohio purgatory, his own coming-out war stories from a conservative Pakistani family in the city. Elias was 20, studying graphic design, and unapologetically out, with a laugh that filled the room like sunlight through clouds. By closing time, he'd convinced me to grab chips from a corner shop, and as we wandered the rain-slick streets, he bumped my shoulder. "You're not alone here, Alex. Manchester's got a pulse for misfits like us." He was right. Elias dragged me into the city's underbelly. Queer poetry slams at the Eagle pub, where drag queens recited Auden with glitter-dusted lips. Weekend hikes in the Peak District, where we'd share secrets over thermos tea, his hand brushing mine accidentally on purpose. Romance crept in slow, like fog off the Irwell, stolen glances during film nights at his flat, where we'd binge Call Me by Your Name and debate if Elio's peach scene was genius or gimmick. Our first kiss happened on a bridge over the canal, after a gig at a basement club, his lips tasting of gin and possibility. "I've wanted this since the library," he murmured, and I believed him, because in his arms, the ache of abandonment dulled to a whisper. But love in exile is a fragile thing. Elias had his own shadows. A brother back home who called him Haram in voicemails he deleted without listening. A mother who sent care packages of halal sweets but never asked about his flatmates. We'd lie tangled in his sheets, tracing tattoos on each other's skin. Mine a small rainbow flag inked hastily in Columbus before takeoff. His a Urdu poem about hidden gardens, and vow to build something real. "We'll go to New York someday," he'd say, sketching skyline doodles on napkins. "You show me bagels, I show you proper tea." It felt like a promise, a tether to pull me home. Fall turned to winter, Manchester's chill seeping into my resolve. I scraped by on part-time barista shifts at a cafe called Brood Awakening, where Elias would show up with sketches of fantastical beasts, claiming they were inspired by my fierce American scowl. Holidays loomed like thunderheads. Grandma baked mince pies and asked polite questions about that nice lad Elias. But I dodged calls from Mom, who left voicemails laced with guilt. "Your father's worried sick, Alex. When are you coming home?" As if I had a choice. The betrayal hit like a nor'easter. It was mid-December, fairy lights twinkling in shop windows, when I overheard Elias on the phone in his kitchen. I was crashing at his place after a late shift, half asleep on the couch, but his voice yanked me awake. Low, urgent, pleading. "Abu, please, I can't just leave him. Alex needs me." Silence, then a sharp reply in Urdu that made him flinch. I pieced it together later. His parents had discovered us through a careless Instagram story, the one with our hands intertwined at a Christmas market. Ultimatum time: come home to Lahore for an arranged marriage, or lose the family roof over his head. The flat, the tuition funds, all tied to their strings. He didn't tell me right away. Instead, he pulled away, canceling plans with excuses about design deadlines. I confronted him after a week of radio silence, storming into his flat to find him packing boxes. "What's this, Elias? You ghosting me like some straight guy after a hookup?" He looked wrecked, eyes red-rimmed, a half-folded jumper in his hands. "It's them, Alex. They found out. Said if I don't go, they'll cut me off. And you, God, you deserve better than this mess." Better? The word ignited something feral in me. "So that's it? You choose them over us? After everything?" He reached for me, but I jerked back, the one-way tickets ghost flaring in my memory. Another abandonment, fresh and raw. We argued until dawn, voices echoing off bare walls, accusations flying like shrapnel. "You're running, just like my parents did," I shouted. "Exiling yourself to make them happy." He sobbed then, collapsing against the doorframe. "I love you, Alex, but love doesn't pay rent or mend families." He left 2 days later, a red-eye to Pakistan, his goodbye a scribbled note. "Forgive me. Find your skyline." I burned it in the sink, the smoke curling like accusations. Alone again, Manchester turned hostile. The pubs too loud, the hills too steep. I spiraled, skipping classes, downing cheap pints until the bartender cut me off. Grandma noticed, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Lad, heartbreak's a storm, but it passes. What's this really about? Over tea one gray morning, it poured out. The coming out, the ticket, Elias's flight. She pulled me into a hug that smelled of lavender and resolve. Your da's a fool, but he's scared. And that boy, he chose fear over fight. You've got American grit. Use it. Her words were a spark. I applied for a work visa extension, landed a better gig at a queer bookstore called The Bent Shelf, where rainbow flags fluttered like battle standards. There, amid stacks of Audre Lorde and James Baldwin, I found fragments of myself, hosting reading groups for expat LGBTQ+ folks, their stories mirroring mine. The Texan cowboy disowned after Pride, the Floridian artist fleeing conversion camp. Romance flickered too, in the form of Theo, a lanky Dutch student with a poet's tongue and no baggage. Our dates were tentative, picnics in Heaton Park, where he'd read Rilke aloud, but his steadiness mended cracks I didn't know were there. Spring thawed the ice in my veins. I saved enough for a return ticket, not one way this time, but round trip, a declaration of agency. Calls with Jamie became lifelines. She was plotting my triumphant return to Ohio, complete with a queer-friendly apartment in Columbus. Parents be damned, she'd say. You're coming home to us. Even Mom's emails softened, tentative olive branches. We're trying, Alex. Therapy starts next week. Dad remained a wall, but cracks showed. A birthday card, unsigned but postmarked from home. The climax crashed in June, heat wave sticky as unresolved grief. Theo and I were at a pride rally in the village. Wait, no, Manchester's gay village. Canal banks alive with flags and bass-thumping floats. I was manning a booth for the Bent Shelf, handing out zines, when my phone lit up. Dad. Heart hammering. I stepped away, the crowd's roar fading to static. Alex? It's me. His voice was gravel, stripped bare. We're sorry. The ticket was a mistake. Panic. Come home. I froze, Theo's hand on my shoulder grounding me. Why now? I demanded, tears blurring the rainbow arches. After months of nothing? He exhaled, long and ragged. Saw you on the news. Some parade clip, your face smiling. Realized we'd pushed away the best of you. It wasn't absolution, not yet, but a door cracking open. Betrayal's echo lingered, but so did forgiveness's whisper. I flew back in July, Theo waving from the gate with promises of visits. Ohio greeted me with cornfields and fireflies. Mom's hug fierce at arrivals. Dad waited in the car, eyes down, but he gripped my hand like it was a lifeline. Proud of you, son, he muttered, and it was enough for now. Elias texted once, from Lahore, heard you're home. Miss your fire. I didn't reply. Some chapters close to make room for sequels. Rebuilding was messy. Family dinners laced with awkward silences. Therapy sessions where Dad admitted his own buried fears from Nam days. But love bloomed anew. With Jamie's crew at Columbus Pride, where I spoke on panels about exile and return. With Theo's transatlantic calls, evolving into shared dreams of a life straddling oceans. Humanistic, they called it in lit class, the belief that we're all flawed pilgrims, seeking grace amid the wreckage. Looking back, that one-way ticket was my unintended odyssey, a forced diaspora that forged me. I came out, was cast adrift, but found my way to harbors I never knew existed. In the end, home isn't a place. It's the courage to claim your story, one vulnerable step at a time. The summer after my return stretched like a lazy river, all firefly-lit evenings and tentative family barbecues where Dad manned the grill with forced joviality. Flipping burgers while Mom hovered, her apologies woven into every side dish. Pass the potato salad, Alex. And I'm sorry again, about everything. I'd nod, throat tight, because forgiveness isn't a light switch. It's more like coaxing a wild animal from the woods, one careful word at a time. Columbus welcomed me back with open arms. Jamie's sublet a chaotic haven of posters and half-eaten pizza. Her girlfriend Lena blasting Chapel Roan while we unpacked my suitcase, stuffed with Manchester souvenirs. A Smith's vinyl, Elias's old sketchbook I'd swiped in a fit of spite. College loomed in the fall. Ohio State, a sprawling beast of brick and Buckeye banners. I majored in English, minoring in social work, driven by a fire to counsel kids like my younger self. Those wide-eyed teens in youth groups, hearts pounding with unspoken secrets. Theo visited in September, his bike shorts and easy grin clashing hilariously with the Midwest corn maze we dragged him to. "This is your America?" he teased, hay sticking to his curls as we navigated the twists. "It's perfect, lost and found, just like you." Our nights were simple. Bonfires in Jamie's backyard, where he'd trace constellations and I'd spill stories of Grandma's shepherd's pie wisdom. Romance with him was a gentle current. No tempests, just the steady pull of shared silences. But Elias lingered like a bruise. I'd blocked his number after that Lahore text, but unblocked it one whiskey-fueled night, scrolling through his feed. Cryptic art posts, a photo of him at a Karachi beach, smile strained. "Miss your fire." The words haunted me, a what-if that twisted in quiet moments. Was he married now, bound to some cousin in a sari? Or fighting his own exile, sketching hidden gardens in secret? I Googled Manchester Pride clips, half hoping to spot him in the crowd, but found only ghosts. Conflict brewed at home, subtle as autumn leaves piling up. Dad threw himself into church renovations. New pews, a youth center revamp, but skipped our first family therapy session, claiming overtime at the mill. Mom cornered me in the kitchen one October morning, rain pattering against the window like impatient fingers. "He's trying, Alex. Give him time." Trying looked like averted eyes at dinner, gruff questions about that Dutch boy, delivered with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. I pushed back, voice steady for the first time. "Time's what you took from me, Dad, when I needed you most." The high school reunion was the spark. My old alma mater, Lincoln High, hosted a fall festival, booths of funnel cakes and hayrides, alumni milling like faded yearbook photos. I went with Jamie, steeling myself for the stares, the whispers from kids who'd called me fag behind my back. Sure enough, Tyler, the ex-quarterback crush, sidled up at the beer tent, his Letterman jacket swapped for a real estate polo, wife on his arm. "Alex, man, heard you went international. Europe straighten you out." His laugh was all teeth, the betrayal casual as a handshake. I walked away, pulse thundering, but Jamie pulled me into a haunted house tent, the plastic skeletons a perfect backdrop for my unraveling. "Screw him," she said, linking arms. "You're the one who survived the Atlantic." That night, I called Theo, his voice a bomb across the wires. "Come visit for Thanksgiving? Show them real courage." He did, arriving with stroopwafels and a quiet confidence that disarmed even Dad. Over turkey, Theo shared his own story, coming out in Amsterdam's tolerant haze, only to face his father's quiet disappointment. Dad listened, fork paused midair, and for the first time, shared a sliver. "Back in '72, I had a buddy in the barracks. We never talked about it, but I let him down." The table fell silent, not uncomfortable, but charged, like the air before rain. Winter brought snowdrifts and revelations. I volunteered at a Columbus LGBTQ+ center, facilitating groups where teens unpacked their rucksacks of fear. One kid, Marcus, 15 and fresh from a conversion prayer chain, reminded me of pre-exile me. Eyes darting, voice a whisper. "My folks say it's a phase. What if it's not?" I told him about the ticket, the Manchester fog, Elias's note. "Phases pass, but you're the constant. Own it." He hugged me after, fierce and fleeting, and I felt the humanistic thread weaving through. Stories linking us, fragile but unbreakable. Theo and I deepened, weekends in his borrowed flat turning into talks of futures. Grad school for him in design, social work certification for me. "We'll split time," he'd say, mapping routes on his phone. Amsterdam canals 1 month, Ohio rivers the next. But doubt crept in, a whisper of Elias's echo. During a holiday market in German village, mulled wine steaming in our cups, I confessed, "There's this ghost, my first real love. Abandoned me for family. Theo's eyes softened. No jealousy, just empathy. Ghosts fade when you let light in. I'm here, Alex. Solid ground. The new year dawned with a storm, literal and figurative. Dad's mill laid off half the line, his pride cracking under financial strain. He withdrew again, snapping at Mom over bills, me over fancy ideas like therapy. One blizzard night, power out, we sat by candlelight, the house creaking like old bones. I failed you, he said suddenly, voice thick. That ticket. I thought distance would fix me, not you. Fix my shame. Tears tracked his weathered cheeks, and I crossed the room, pulling him into an embrace that smelled of aftershave and regret. Shame's the real exile, Dad. We're both coming home. Spring unfurled with green shoots of hope. Marcus's group thrived, his parents attending a PFLAG meeting after my nudge. Theo proposed a summer in Europe, not exile but exploration. Train tickets from Manchester to Amsterdam, a loop of healing. I hesitated, the one-way scar itching, but boarded the plane with his hand in mine. Landing in Heathrow, heart pounding, I half expected Elias's shadow, but found only memories, softened by time. We detoured to Chorlton, Grandma's house now a rental, her letters full of pride. That boy's a keeper, Alex. Don't let fear clip your wings. At the bench shelf, the owner remembered me, gifting a signed copy of The Price of Salt. No sightings of Elias, but closure in the absence. His fire had lit mine, then flickered out, making room for Theo's steady flame. Back in the States, Dad surprised me with a road trip, father-son, just us, driving Route 66 remnants through Indiana Flats. We talked, really talked. His Vietnam letters, unspoken loves buried in foxholes. My Manchester journals, read aloud at a diner counter. You're braver than I ever was, he admitted, and it sealed something. A pact against further betrayals. By summer's end, the story felt complete, not in perfection, but in progress. Theo and I planned a life roots in two soils. Jamie threw a welcome home, for real party, toasts to resilience ringing out. And in quiet moments, I'd touch the rainbow ink on my wrist, a talisman. I'd come out, been sent adrift, but washed up whole. Humaneness isn't in endings, but in the messy grace of continuing. Fall semester hit like a freight train, syllabi stacking up like accusations, but I thrived in the chaos. Whitman's leaves of grass echoing my own regrowth. Wolf's waves mirroring the tides of love and loss. Theo's visits became anchors, his laughter cutting through the dorm's fluorescent hum, but distance gnawed. 8-hour flights, spotty Wi-Fi confessions. I miss your coffee breath, he'd text at 3 a.m. his time, and I'd reply with blurry selfies from the library stacks. Heart emoji a poor substitute for skin. The center's work intensified. Marcus's story went viral locally. A teen's op-ed in the Dispatch about tickets to nowhere, inspired by mine. Reporters called, and suddenly I was the face of youth exile. Panels at City Hall where suits nodded solemnly. It was validating, but exhausting. Reliving the airport terminal's sterile chill under hot lights. Dad attended one, sitting ramrod in the back row, his applause thunderous after. You speak like a man who knows, he said later, over burgers at Thurman's. Pride swelled, tentative as new buds. Betrayal's shadow resurfaced in November. Crisp leaves crunching underfoot as I checked mail at the center. An envelope postmarked Lahore, no return address, but Elias's scrawl unmistakable. Inside, a sketch, me on that canal bridge, kiss immortalized in charcoal smudges. A letter, pages trembling in my grip. Alex, I failed you twice, once by leaving, once by silence. Arranged, yes, but it's ash. Divorcing quietly, fighting for my own ticket home. If there's space in your skyline. My chest caved, old wounds ripping open. Theo was in town that weekend. Our plans a cozy cabin rental upstate, but I hid the letter, shame coiling like smoke. The cabin was all pine and crackling fire, snow dusting the eaves like powdered sugar. We hiked frozen trails, breath fogging in the cold, his gloved hand warm in mine. What's eating you? He asked that night, mulled cider steaming between us. Guilt propelled the words. The letter, the pull, the fear I'd never fully shaken the ghost. Theo listened. No storm, just quiet hurt etching his brow. I won't be a placeholder, Alex. Love me or let me go. He left the next morning, cab taillights fading into whiteout, a one-way echo of my own past. Alone with the fire's dying embers, I confronted the mirror, eyes shadowed, jaw set. Elias's words promised redemption, but at what cost? A transatlantic tug-of-war, heart's collateral? I wrote back, not with fire, but clarity. Your sketch is beautiful, but my canvas is full. Heal your gardens. I'll tend mine. Sealed, stamped, sent. A closure keystone. Climax brewed over Christmas. Family converging in Ohio's frost-laced embrace. Mom's table groaned with ham and stories. Dad even cracking a joke about that time I almost joined the village people. But tension simmered. Whispers of mill rumors, buyouts, strikes. New Year's Eve, Jamie's bash at her loft pulsed with bass and confetti. Lena spiking eggnog while I danced with strangers, trying to outrun the ache. Theo's silence was a void, texts unread, and when midnight struck, I slipped out to the fire escape, city lights blurring through tears. That's when Dad found me, 2 beers in hand. Knew you'd be up here, stargazing like your old man. We clinked, the cold biting, and he unloaded. The mill's closure imminent, pensions gutted, his fear of becoming that deadbeat dad from the stories. Vulnerability poured, raw as winter wind. Seeing you fight, Alex, it shames me. I sent you away to hide my failures, not fix yours. I gripped his shoulder, the prodigal reversed. We're both fighters, Dad. We'll strike back together. January brought reinvention. Theo and I video called, apologies bridging the gap, his hurt valid, my honesty a bridge. Slow rebuild, he proposed, and I agreed, no rush, just presence. The center launched a No More One-Ways campaign. Scholarships for exiled youth, hotlines, pride grants. Marcus emceed the kickoff, his voice steady. We don't get sent. We choose our paths. Donors poured in, including an anonymous check from Manchester. Elias, I suspected, his way of atoning without intrusion. Spring semester, I audited a playwriting class, channeling the tumult into scripts. A one-act about a son and a ticket, staged in the Black Box Theater to a packed house. Dad came, Mom dabbing eyes during the airport scene, Theo flying in for curtain call, his bouquet of daisies a quiet truce. Backstage, he pulled me close. Your words, they heal. The kiss was soft, promising, a step beyond ghosts. But conflict crested in May, graduation caps tossing like confetti grenades. Dad's mill shuttered for good, the town reeling, picketers chanting, families fracturing. He spiraled, drowning doubts in six-packs, lashing at Mom over what-ifs. I intervened, dragging him to a union meeting turned therapy circle, blue-collar men sharing scars. Lost my brother to the bottle after Nam, one grizzled vet said. Dad nodded, then spoke. Lost my son to my fear, getting him back, one day at a time. The room hushed, then clapped, brotherhood a bomb. Theo's graduation gift was a ring, simple silver, engraved with skyline shared. Not proposal, but pledge. We road-tripped the Great Lakes, waves crashing like applause, talking futures. His design firm in Utrecht, my social work masters at OSU, summers swapping continents. Elias's final note arrived then. A postcard from Berlin. Saw your play online. Proud. Gardens blooming. I pinned it to the fridge, archive not anchor. Humanistic threads wove tighter. Volunteering with laid-off workers, blending queer allyship with labor rights. Family game nights where Dad's bad puns earned groans and grace. The story's arc bent toward light. Not flawless, but forward. I'd been sent alone, but returned woven with others. Loves, losses, lessons. In the end, coming out isn't a single confession. It's a lifetime of reclamations, each one a ticket home. Summer postgrad was a whirlwind of internships and intentions. The center's campaign exploding into national news, CNN segments on exile tickets, petitions circling Congress for family reconciliation grants. I became an accidental advocate, testifying in D.C. via Zoom, my Ohio twang clashing with Capitol polish. It's not just about sexuality, I told the suits. It's about dignity denied. Dad watched the stream from the living room. Thumbs up emoji his quiet cheer. Mom baked victory cookies, chocolate chip talismans against the spotlight's glare. Theo and I navigated the rebuild with care, weekly calls evolving to monthly merges. Him crashing my internship crash pad in a sticky DC sublet. We explored monuments at dawn, Lincoln's gaze solemn as we unpacked his insecurities. Amsterdam's tolerant, but I'm just ordinary. I traced his jaw in the reflecting pool's shimmer. Ordinary's extraordinary when it's yours. Intimacy returned, slow dances in cramped kitchens. No rush to labels, just the romance of rediscovery. Elias's ghost, once a specter, shrank to sepia. A mutual friend from the bench shelf messaged. He's in Berlin, designing for a queer arts collective. Engaged to a Syrian refugee artist. Fiery. Relief washed over me, bittersweet as black coffee. I replied to the postcard, bloom on. Skylines brighter. No reply needed. Closure's a solo act. The real storm hit in August, heat lightning cracking Ohio skies. Dad's unemployment dragged, pride eroding into bar tabs and blame. One humid night, he stumbled home late, slurring accusations at Mom. You always sided with him, the fairy son. The word landed like a slap, echoing my high school taunts. I burst from my room, fists clenched. Get out, Dad. Now. He swung wild, missing, collapsing in sobs. I didn't mean. God. Alex, I'm losing everything. Ambulance lights painted the lawn blue. AR waiting room a purgatory of fluorescent buzz. Concussion, dehydration. The doc's verdict gentle but grim. Needs rehab, son. Counseling. You can't fix him alone. Mom wept in the hall, her hand in mine. We sent you away to protect you from this, from us. I held her, the cycle stark. Exile begetting exile. No more running, I vowed. We face it together. Rehab was a fortress in rural Indiana, white-clabbered and group circles. Visiting Sundays, I drive the hour, Theo sometimes shotgun, his presence a shield. Dad's eyes cleared week by week, stories spilling. A teenage crush on the farmhand, buried under Marine drills. The ticket as his own panic attack, fearing I'd suffer his unspoken hell. I betrayed you to betray myself less, he admitted, voice cracking. Forgiveness flowed freer then, hugs lingering, plans hatching for post-release life, job training, family hikes. Theo's world pulled too. His firm landed a big client, Berlin Queer Film Fest posters, and he jetted for a month, leaving me adrift in the sublet. Loneliness nipped, old habits whispering. Scroll X's, doubt the now. Jamie sensed it, dragging me to a drag brunch where sequins and shade healed like laughter therapy. You're not alone, bitch, the queen quipped, winking over mimosas. Her words stuck, a mantra for the melee. Fall brought harvests of change. Dad checked out clean, starting at a solar panel plant, green jobs for a gray town. Family dinners normalized. His toasts to my brave kid earning blushes and beers. The center promoted me to program director, budget ballooning, Marcus my right-hand teen ambassador. Theo returned with festival swag. A Berlin bear plush, tickets to next year's fest. Come with? Your exile sequel. I laughed. Yes on my lips, heart full. But climax crested Thanksgiving. Table set for 12. Mom's kin, Jamie's crew, even Grandma flying in from Manchester, her accent thickening the gravy talk. Dad stood mid-meal, glass raised, voice steady. To Alex, for coming out, for coming home, for teaching this old dog new grace. Cheers erupted, but then the door. Elias, unannounced, duffel at his feet, fiancé in tow. How? A center contact, he'd said later, seeing my name in the news. Shock rippled, forks pausing. He looked older, curls tamed, eyes kindled with quiet joy. Heard about the campaign. Thought, maybe amends? His partner, Amir, extended a hand warm, calloused from clay wheels, introducing himself with a shy smile. Awkwardness danced like overcooked turkey, but Theo's grip on my knee steadied, Dad's nod welcoming. Stories bridged gaps. Elias's divorce odyssey, Berlin's vibrant underbelly, Amir's refugee art blooming in galleries. No rekindling, just reconciliation. A fireside chat later, stars pricking the November black. I betrayed us both, Elias said, voice low. But your light? It guided me here. Tears came, not bitter, but cleansing. We're good, I replied, Theo's arm around me, Amir sketching idly on a napkin. Humaneness in the raw. Betrayers become bridges, when grace allows. Winter wrapped us in wonder, holiday lights on High Street, Theo and I ice skating at Nationwide Arena. Falls forgiven in laughter. Dad joined AA, sponsoring a mill buddy. Mom started a book club on Queer Lit, Fun Home her gateway. Elias and Amir extended their stay, crashing Jamie's, collabing on campaign graphics, rainbow fists for the posters. By New Year's, the skyline felt infinite. Love's layered, not lost. Family fortified, flaws and all. I'd been sent with a one-way, but returned with a constellation, points of light mapping mercy. Romance, in its romantic grit, isn't perfection. It's the art of arriving, again and again. The new year unfolded like a well-worn novel, chapters predictable yet poignant. The center's momentum carrying me into a rhythm of rallies and reports. Berlin beckoned in February. Theo's fest a whirlwind of screenings and street art. Amir and Elias hosting us in their Kreuzberg flat. Exposed brick, succulents climbing trellises, the scent of cardamom chai seeping from the kitchen. No awkwardness lingered. Instead, easy evenings debating moonlight over falafel. Elias's sketches adorning walls like shared history. This is what healing looks like, Theo whispered one night, city lights gilding his profile. I nodded, the one-way's weight a feather now. Back home, Dad's solar gig bloomed, union rep, advocating for queer-inclusive policies in the plant's HR. Learned from the best, he'd grunt, clapping my shoulder after a strategy session at the kitchen table. Mom's book club grew, hosting virtual chats with Manchester's The Bent Shelf, Grandma moderating with her trademark tea-fueled candor. Yanks and Brits, all the same. Stubborn hearts, soft middles. Spring brought a personal surge. Theo's visa sorted, him relocating part-time to Columbus for a remote design gig. Our apartment a cozy nook above a coffee shop. Exposed beams, bookshelves groaning, a balcony overlooking the Scioto where we'd sip IPAs at dusk. Romance deepened into domesticity. Grocery lists scrawled with hearts. Lazy Sundays baking Theo's strip waffles from scratch. Flour dusting like fresh snow. This is us, he'd say, pinning a skyline doodle to the fridge. New York, Amsterdam, Columbus intertwined. Conflict's embers glowed faintly. A funding scare at the center, grants drying up amid budget cuts. Marcus and I rallied, op-eds in The Atlantic, a GoFundMe that trended on TikTok with teen testimonials. Dad donated his first paycheck. Mom organized a bake sale. The climax? A gala fundraiser at the Ohio Union, chandeliers sparkling, donors in tuxes mingling with youth in pride pins. I keynote, voice steady. Exile isn't the end. It's the forge. We emerge stronger, stories in hand. Applause thundered, checks poured. But the real win was Dad on stage, arm around Marcus, toasting to paths reclaimed. Betrayal's final echo faded in June. Pride Month a riot of color. Parade floats rumbling down High Street, rainbow flags snapping in the breeze. Elias and Amir flew in, joining the march. Theo and I led a contingent of center kids, signs reading, "No more one-ways." Spotting my parents on the sidelines. Dad waving a makeshift flag, Mom cheering through tears, cracked me open. Post-parade picnic in Goodale Park, blankets spread with subs and stories, families blending. Ohio stoicism meeting Berlin fire. Theo proposed that solstice night, not on bended knee but barefoot on our balcony. Ring glinting in firefly glow. Skyline forever? Simple, profound. Yes tumbled out, laughter mingling with kisses, the city humming approval below. Fall anchored us, wedding plans tentative, a small affair blending cultures. Dutch tulips, American pie, Manchester rain if grandma insisted. The center expanded, satellites in Cleveland and Cincy, my role evolving to national outreach. Dad mentored apprentices, his gravel voice guiding lost boys through job mazes. Mom penned a memoir snippet for the club, the ticket that brought us back. Winter's hush brought reflection, holidays a tapestry. Ohio tree trimming with Theo's ornaments from Utrecht, a video call to Elias's clan in Lahore, his sister's wedding, vibrant saris and stolen glances. No regrets, just gratitude's quiet glow. In the end, the story circles back to that terminal, the ticket a talisman not of loss but launch. I came out, was cast abroad, alone with echoes, but found constellations. Theo's steady orbit, Dad's hard-won grace, communities cradling the cracks. Humanistic to the core, it's a reminder, we're all one-way wanderers, redeemed by connections forged in fire. Romance isn't a destination. It's the journey's light, illuminating homes we build, one vulnerable heartbeat at a time. And as I trace the rainbow on my wrist, watching snow dust the skyline, I know, the best stories don't end. They echo, inviting others to write their own.